Canadian students are back on the streets. Thousands have marched through Montreal 2 days after talks with the Quebec government on tuition fees collapsed. Student groups are demanding a freeze on planned increases in higher education costs, but authorities have ruled out that possibility. Protesters are now vowing to renew daily rallies, which last month led to fierce clashes with police and more than 2,500 arrests. And as RT's Gunny Chichikan reports now, what started in February as a student strike has grown into popular protest against mirroring the welfare system of Canada's southern neighbour.
The Canadian province of Quebec, a region that prides itself on free healthcare and affordable education for its residents. Students here pay a fixed amount for tuition fees, around $2,500 a year for all of the colleges and universities. That's the lowest rate in North America, and the taxpayers pick up the rest. But that model might change as their government looks south.
They are looking across the borders and seeing what the United States are doing and trying to become closer and closer to what the United States are working on, which is more and more privatization instead of having social programs that cover for everybody.
Tens of thousands spilled onto the streets when the government said they'd be pushing up tuition fees every year. And in 5 years, the students of Quebec will face education costs almost double what they're paying now. Amélie Villeneuve is a student at a Montreal university. She works part-time at a local ice cream shop. She says if the people of Quebec don't stand their ground now, in the future, higher education just won't be an option for many.
If it's too expensive, the poor children will not even think about going to school because it's another world. It's part of something not accessible. They would not even think about being a doctor or a philosopher, you know? It would be not accessible. And what I was saying is that in US it's so expensive. So the poor people, they want to study, they have no choice but going in the army for that.
The prospect of having to join the military to provide for their education is not the only thing about the US example that scares the Quebecois. To fund skyrocketing tuition fees, Americans carry massive student loan debts on their shoulders.
We need to preserve this and not become like what we've seen growing in the United States, right? Having a lot of students that are still paying for their university program and when they are 70 years old. So we need to make sure that every student will be able to contribute to the economical region and making sure that they can afford actually to start maybe new businesses.
The rest of North America should be looking to Quebec as an example of how to mobilize, how student associations should function through direct democracy, and how they should actually organize and challenge these measures and challenge this debt shackle system.
The protests clearly signaled the path that Quebec is willing, or rather not willing, to take.
When we look towards the United States, we see a country in which the idea of access is wrapped up in the ability to pay. And this is what we're seeing the resistance against, that access to things like higher education or like healthcare are in effect access to public goods, and that there should be a way of controlling the costs and ensuring that people, no matter what their monetary capabilities, are able to take advantage of these kinds of programs.
What the world knows about the protests here is that they have to do with students and their tuition fees. But for people of the Quebec province, it's not so much about the economy, but more about their identity and a special welfare model that they're striving to keep. I'm Ganesh Chakan reporting from Montreal, Canada, RT.